I remember seeing on NFL films, and it was later in the year, Ray Lewis coming up to you and he was saying, "Hey, young lion, we only gonna go as far as you gonna take us."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so hearing that, you said it really wasn't any pressure because you were supported around with so many veterans in that locker room. Tony Syracuse, Ray,
Rod
Woodson, Chris McAllister was there previously from a few years. So, like, to hear him say that, like, how did that empower you?
Let's go behind the mask.
Man, it's good to be back in the Behind the Mask studios, right, man? We got another special guest, one of our all-time favorites, straight out of Atlanta, Georgia, a product of Doug High School. Man, let's give it up for my man, Jamal Lewis. Super Bowl champion Jamal Lewis.
Jay Lou in the building.
Glad to be here.
Class of 2000.
Glad to be here with my old pals.
There it is.
My old workout homies.
The workout homies, man. So what's up, Jay? What you been up to, bro? Everything been good with you?
Everything been good, man. Just staying busy. That's about it. Trying to stay in the light, with the Ravens and traveling a little bit. Depressed about my Vols, but we still living.
Listen,
and just getting around, man. Just trying to stay busy. That's about it.
If you depressed about your Vols, I'm depressed about my Rebels. So we in the same boat, bro.
Hey, it happens, right? You go through a drought sometime.
I feel you.
Hey, you should be depressed about those the Vols, though. It's been a minute. Like, consistency. Let's talk about that, man. Like, what's going on with Tennessee? Because I remember back in the day now, like, I was this close to going to Tennessee.
As you should have.
I probably should have. We would have had a dope team. I would have won the national championship.
Yeah.
But we ain't gonna turn back the hands. But what you see? What's going on with Coach Jeremy Pruitt, head coach, right?
Man, I just think recruiting plays a major part in college football, right? And it just shows that since Kiffin at the time and them letting Fulmer go, that was years ago, and we've just suffered ever since between probably 2 or 3 coaches since then. And we just lack recruiting, man. So we gotta build it back up. But I think that Pruitt, I think he got it. I think T. Martin's back down there. He's revamping that coaching staff to get some real recruiters on board. You know how Coach G used to be. Getting out there, bringing in all the talent from all the football states and bringing them in. I think that's what we got to get back to. I think that's what we're suffering. That's why we're suffering right now.
I think one of the dopest things about Tennessee, and I tell everybody, I grew up in New York, loved football as a kid, came down to Georgia briefly. I don't think you knew this. I came down to Georgia briefly, lived there for 3 months, but every Saturday I would watch Jefferson Pilot Sports, right? And I would see the games coming on. I would see Tennessee with the checkered end zone. I would, you know what I'm saying? Peyton was doing this thing back then. So what will it take to get back to that time where Tennessee was really on? It was Tennessee and Florida. That was the SEC. It wasn't even Bama, it wasn't Auburn back then. It was Tennessee and Florida. Yeah. So what would it take for you guys to get back there, aside from recruiting?
Outside of recruiting, I think, because you got to bring the talent in, and I think they started by bringing Pruitt in. I think Pruitt, he teaches coaches how to coach. He teaches the players how to get it and bringing in the right players. But the history is there. The fans are there. Everything's there, man. I think it's just getting the players to understand the history, what we came from, the dynamics of being a great organization and a great football team. And I think, beating South Carolina the other day, I really like that because I think it showed these guys what it feels like to win and go out and actually not just win, but actually dominate and win. So, sometimes that light bulb will click and you start playing like that. And I think it's more of believing that they can go out and do it, because I can't say they don't have talent. Right. It's just the talent believing that they can go do it,
Yeah, so, a lot of people, they know about the Super Bowl, and we go way back. And I just took time, and I was like, man, you know what? Let me just go check it out and just see overall, like, all the accomplishments that you've done. I'm actually going to going all the way back, you leaving high school, but, Super Bowl champion, NFL rushing yards leader in 2003, monster year, part of the NFL decade team from the all 2000s. SEC Freshman of the Year. Actually won. You won the national title your second year in college. Bruh, like, you accomplished a lot. And this is the thing that me and Tu was talking about. Everywhere you showed up, you showed out, including the first year. The first year in Tennessee, I don't even know if you know this, you had over 1,300 yards rushing. Your first year as a rookie in Baltimore, you had over 1,300 yards rushing. Yeah. And then your first year in Cleveland, you had over 1,300 yards rushing. So, like, when we see the finished product and we see who you are, everybody know you was a bruiser. And I'm going to go into that later. But, like, what do you accredit all of that to, though? Like, being able to not only be sustainable for so long, but at an early age just continuing to have success. What drove you?
I think it's decision making, man. I was one of those kids that when I made my mind up to do something, I went 100 miles an hour to go make it happen and to do it. And the high school I went to, that was a decision because I wasn't going to go there, right? The college, same way. Everything was about a business decision on basically when you go in here, what's the opportunity going to be? Are you going to get the opportunity? And going into Tennessee, I knew I was going to get an opportunity to play or to at least compete, right? Peyton was staying as well, so I kind of knew that he would take the attention and I could just go in and do what I needed to do. Going into the Ravens, the same thing. I had no control over that, but at the same time, I knew I could go in and compete because I was the 5th pick in the draft, so you're going to get a chance to compete, right? And then going to Cleveland, same thing. Phil Savage was there, who was with the Ravens, and I knew that, they didn't have, a good running back and this, that, and the other at the time. I was going to be able to go in and compete and do my thing, and they was going to let me run it. But, man, just hard work, man. Just going in, working hard, putting your mind to it, sacrificing, dedicating yourself to the process, and just doing that, dude, everything just kind of fell into place, I must say, but at the same time, just being able to go in and be a professional and just kind of know it's not just about, right then, it's basically what are you building up for the future versus just right then, Right. So that's what I accredit it to, honestly, man. Just decision making and a little bit of luck, and being able to go in and be around some veteran players, be around some veteran players, some good defenses in college, good defenses in the pros, and being able to go in and just do my job consistently and do what I like to do, and that's, hey, just go, Yeah,
you talked about being around veterans in the locker room, and your first year in Tennessee, Peyton Manning, he was your quarterback. He could have easily left and been the number 1 quarterback in the draft the previous year, but he decided to stay. What was that experience like when you walked into the locker room, even the first time in the huddle, from what you saw of the Peyton Manning?
So I got 2 stories about Peyton. So I can remember in camp, we had real camp, 2-a-day camps, right, for 2 weeks.
Actually, 3-a-days.
Yeah, right.
The middle practice, that special team practice was full practice too.
Yeah, and it was, I can remember being in my room one day, right, and I got a knock at the door, and I looked out the window because the older guys prank you or play jokes, so it was Peyton. And I'm like, man, what do he want? So I opened the door, and he had like 5 sheets of paper in his hand, right? And he was like, "What you doing in here?" I was like, "Nothing, just chilling." And he was like, he said, "Sit down, sit down on the bed." I sat down, and he said, "You want to play?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to play." He said, "Well, in order to play, you got to protect me, right?" And I was like, "Cool, let's, And then he had these 5 sheets of paper.
Yep.
And he had drawn out all of the protections that I needed to know. He said, "These are protections that you need to know in order to get in." And he told me, he said, "Look, if you can learn these protections," he said, "I promise you'll be playing by the 4th game of the season." And I was like, cool, I was like, so, but long story short, I ended up playing the 4th game of the season, which was out the Florida week, right?
Yep.
But even before that, I can remember Coach Cutcliffe coming to me in practice after it was after one of our practices earlier on. And he just came in and was brutally honest. He said, you can't play for me. And I was like, why? He said, because you don't practice like you want to play. And I was like, I'm a gamer. I'm like,
You
I'm
a
a gamer.
freshman, you telling the coach, man, I'm a gamer.
Really, I'm a gamer. Yeah,
Practice?
he said, look, this is what I want you to do. He said, tomorrow when you come out to practice, he said, look at number 16 practice. And I did that. And it honestly changed my whole outlook, on the game from a practice standpoint, because every play, every snap, he was dropping back just like it was in the game.
Right.
Everything was crisp. If he messed up something, whatever, it was like he was passionate about it. And ever since that day, it was like, hey, look, when I got a snap, when I was in practice, when I was in the walkthrough, whatever it was, I was full speed, and it taught me a lot. And I credit Coach Cutcliffe for that, and he's a great coach for that. But that's how I lived every day of my career, after that.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Cut. Had a brief stint with him at Ole Miss. Everything you said is 100% accurate. Let me ask you this, though. You had, as Takeo alluded to, you had all the success in high school, right? College, Cozy Coleman went to the league. Leonard Little went to the league. Of course, Peyton Manning went to the league. Peerless Price went to the league. Travis Stevens went to the league. Raynoch Thompson went to the league. Al Wilson went to the league.
Deion Grant
went to the league. Did you ever get spoiled with all of this talent on your team? It had to make it just easy for you to just almost like plug and play, do your job, because everyone else around you, Chad Clifton, everyone else around you, you had league talent all over.
Yeah, but that's when you know what kind of program you in, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know it. Just coming in from Atlanta, just coming in and you see dudes driving around in nice SUVs and this, that, and the other, and you're like, who is that? Oh, that's Joey Kent. He just got drafted. This guy, he just got drafted. I'm like, dang, that's how it is. So then my freshman year, you had Leonard Little and all these dudes that, they driving around in Navigators and all this stuff. And I'm like,
Navigators just came out.
I'm like, hold on. I'm like,
I copped me one of those.
I'm like, that's how it is, or whatever, right? And I was just like, man, I can, like, it was just like a recycle, everything's recycled, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I say about recruiting. When you got good players and good organization, it just happens. You don't have to worry about getting a 5-star recruit or a 4-star recruit, or, you're going to have dudes getting drafted in the first round every year.
Right.
Like, I can remember going to the draft, going to the combine, and I didn't do anything at the combine. I think I left at the combine, but...
Yeah, you was chill mode, I remember.
Yeah, I went to the combine, and I was like, and one of the guys, he was like, hey, so you going to run? You going to do everything? I said, nah, I'm just going to lift, and that's it. He was like, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, he said, well, every scout and every coach, you're going to be here, to see you. And I told him, I said, I went to the University of Tennessee. I said, every coach going to be there too. Plain and simple. Every coach going to be there too. But guess what? It was the truth, because like you said, we had the Cozy Colemans, and the year I came out, we had 5 guys to go in the first 2 rounds, Yeah. And I think probably 2 or 3 went in the first round, but you got guys that's going to go, So, but it was like you said, you do get spoiled, and you think that, okay, when you go to the pros, it's going to be just like that or whatever. But I was lucky.
But then it transcended to the league, because as soon as you got in the league, you got a Super Bowl ring, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, how did you stay focused with all this success, man?
Honestly, I was just like, you know what? I had some good veterans. That's why I say I had some good veterans around me. You go in with the Ray Lewises and Sarah Gusa, and I used to work out with Shannon Sharp when I was in college. So I've been working out with Shannon for the last 2 or 3 years. Every time I came home, I went out to Grady Stadium and was running with him. And then he ended up being at the Ravens. But being around all these guys is like, you just listen. And you just listen to them talk and the different things that they were saying, or whatever. But, even Spikes, what I mean? Like, when I came home, man, Spikes used to send me his shoes Hey, look, they was white. I used to paint them black, and the coach used to get mad with me at Tennessee because we was wearing Adidas. But I'm like, I'm wearing these. My boy Spikes.
He had them Nikes. I had my boy laced up.
Hey, I spray painted them and everything. Spray painted them black. But yeah, just having guys like that around you. You can have guys that are professionals and these guys around you, but if you don't take time to listen and take in what they're saying and what they're talking about, then it's a waste,
Yeah, and your first year when you went to Baltimore, I knew what they were getting. Mm-hmm. I've been knowing you since high school, watching, knew of him at the time when we actually met. But man, you came in, rushed for over 1,300 yards. But the kicker is that you had a great defense. That Baltimore defense in the 2000s goes down as one of the best defenses of all time.
Yeah.
Brian Billick was the head coach. Talk about how important it was at that time, because when we look at football now, it's a passing league. Mm-hmm. Now, Brian Billick, he took pride in being an aggressive football team, and you look at the I formation versus just aligning up and just going 13 personnel, 11 personnel. Talk about how that fitted into who you were, or who you were at that time as far as a bruiser. You loved to run the football and you wanted it every play.
So Billick was they called Billick the offensive guru, after he came in from Minnesota. Because he had Culpepper, he had Jake Reed, he had
Randy
Moss, and the other Hall of Famer, Chris Carter. He had all these guys, and he was the offensive guru, right? But we didn't have that kind of personnel, right? But he wanted it. He wanted to throw it, and boy, he was throwing it. He was letting it go. He was letting it loose. But it came a time during that season when we didn't score a point, or we didn't score a touchdown in maybe 5 games or something. And all of a sudden, he did something that a lot of coaches won't do. He went back and looked at everything and said, you know what? And I think Ray and a lot of the guys went up to him and said, look, we got a great defense, and we can run the ball. Hand the ball off and throw it to Shannon Sharp and take your chances downfield when you can. Mm-hmm. And he did that. And then that's when we kind of went on that roll and started winning games, and started winning, repeatedly winning. And our defense stayed pumped because they kept getting us the ball back, and we kept moving the chains. And we couldn't score that many points, but we could kick field goals, and we could do that. And they would actually tell us, hey, look, this week, just give us 14 points.
The defense used to come in there and tell y'all that.
They would tell us, hey, look, just give us, we only need about 10 points from y'all.
That's it.
And you know what? We'll give them just what they asked for. We would give them just what they asked for. But it was a special time of the year, man. And me and Ray, and we used to run every Thursday, Friday, get out. And it got to a point where around close to the end of the season, we looked at each other and we was like, hey, I don't see us getting beat. And I was like, me either. And it was, it was like everybody bought into that, And we went on that run, and it was tough, but we went on that run, and it was just like I just need to do my thing, And growing up, I didn't watch football. I didn't, I just played the game and had fun doing it, And I'm just happy. I was just happy to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here and I'm gonna do my thing.
Right?
Like, I'm from Adamsville. You know what I mean? Like, but I'm on the stage, and I'm gonna take advantage of it, and I'm gonna run it and get downhill and do what I do, and I think just my style of running fit with Baltimore at the time, and it was just one of them times. It was a special, Eddie George in the league, Fred Taylor, you got the big backs,
Corey Dillon. Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, that's why going to the Pro Bowl was hard for me in the AFC because I had to compete with all these guys,
for so long.
Exactly. Yep.
So when you brought up a good point about Billick, but I remember seeing on NFL films, and it was later in the year, Ray Lewis coming up to you and he was saying, "Hey, young lion, we only gonna go as far as you gonna take us."
Yeah. Yeah.
So hearing that, you said it really wasn't any pressure because you were supported around with so many veterans in that locker room. Tony Syracuse, Ray,
Rod Woodson.
Chris McAllister was there previously from a few years. So, like, to hear him say that, like, how did that empower you?
You know, it was like, you know, this dude is one of the greats. You know, and at that time, he had led the league in rushing, I think. I mean, not in rushing, in tackles, you know, consistently. Mm-hmm. And he was that guy. And when we used to sit and talk, you know, and just have our own conversations, you know, he just used to say, look, man, I'm feeding off you and you feeding off me. So when I was on the field, he was over there on the sideline watching and rooting me on. When they was on the field, I was doing the same thing. And it was just like, we just fed off each other, you know? Mm-hmm. And that was a dynamic that we had, man, that was just, it was special. And we fed off each other, you know?
So I always ask the players that have had success that come on the Behind the Mask podcast, how did you stay focused, man? You was in B-More and, again, had all the success, Super Bowls, et cetera, right down the street from Chocolate City. In the A, we know how it was. We talked to everybody about how BMF was running the city back then, and we always doing our thing. How did you stay focused to continue your level of success for so long in the league?
Well, just for so long, I think, man, it was just being me and not trying to be somebody that I wasn't, and not trying to be who everybody else really wanted me to be. And that was, hey, going out, working out, and dedicating myself to it. And sacrificing, man, just sacrificing family, sacrificing certain things that, you know, like, you know, that might be more important to others. Yeah. But I had a goal, you know, and where I wanted to be. I wanted to play 10 years in the league. I wanted to be one of the best at my position, you know. So in order to do that, you know, you got to be doing something and really doing what your competitors and what they're not, you know, and what they're not doing. And that's why I trained so hard in the off season. I didn't take trips. I didn't have to go out of the country and go do all that because
he did.
I know. But my whole thing was, you know what? This is short. Yeah. You know, it's short. I retired when I was 30 years old. So it's like I got all the time to go do that. Facts. I wanted to be the best at what I could do. And I think that's kind of how I stayed focused. And I had some trials and tribulations and things that happened or whatever. And it was like, hey, look, you know, like things happen. Adversity happens. How are you going to get through it? You know, and God put you in certain positions for a reason. So it's not for you to harp on them. It's for you to learn from them. And what are you going to do to come out of them? And what was the purpose of this? You know, whatever. So a lot of people see it as focus or whatever, but, you know, hey, I just, like I said, I just was being me and just happy to be in the position that I was in and just worked hard, you know?
But even with all of that, man, like, again, Spikes alluded to it earlier, 1,300 yards off the rip. In 2003, 2,000 yards rushing. That's that you wanted that feat alone is only a handful of running backs that have ever done that in the league.
Yeah.
What made that particular season, your particular year, different from any other to get to that feat of rushing over 2,000 yards?
So if Instagram and all of that was in, what people would have saw is that it wasn't September, you know, through December that made the 2,000 yards happen. It was January to June, July, right? And that's when we was training.
Right.
You know, that's when we was training. That's when it was, you know, hey, look, you know, we was on the line at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we was on the line at 9 a.m. And we held each other accountable, even though we was on different teams. Like, we held each other accountable, you know? Because we know that, hey, look, I saw you last night.
Yeah.
I saw you last night.
Hey, just for all listeners, though, like, who were some of the guys, like, you go out together, we on train together, who we held accountable to each other?
Yeah, it was Wayne Gandy, of course. He was the big
Uncle
big
Wayne.
And then you had Hines. Hines was there.
Yep.
You had what Frank Walker came through there. Yeah,
killing that
OC, of course. Who else, man? We had we used to have about
Deshae
20
Townsend.
Yeah, Deshae. We had about 20-some guys or more that was just out there, and we all lived in Atlanta, and we hung together, we worked out together, and we drove each other, and we went and competed against each other out there working out. But at the same time, we knew we was going to compete against each other on the field as well. But it was, honestly, it was just one of those things where, man, we worked each other, and I know for me, I wanted to get 2,000 yards, and when I saw it, honestly, it wasn't even 2,000 yards. It was being able to go break Corey Dillon's record because I saw him get 274, and I said, I know I can get that, and that's how I trained, and that's what I beat into my head every time we trained.
At what point, 295 yards is a lot of damn yards. That really means I'm gonna start off on the 1 yard line, and we going to allow this back to run 99 yards, come back and run another 100, and damn near run another 100.
Anytime we get the ball, we running the ball.
Yeah.
So my thing is, man, you was a running fool. So at what point throughout the game to where you knew I'm gonna break Corey Dillon's record?
So, like I said, I watched him break that record, and what I noticed was he had a few big runs.
The chunk yardage runs, right?
You gotta have the big runs early too. And when I started that game, I had an 88-yard run on the first or second carry. I had an 88-something yard run. And then came back behind that. You think 88 yards, shoot, we finna be over 100 real soon. So then I came out, and then I think I had another one. And just so happened, you knew Andre Davis. So me and Andre had talked the night before, or a few nights before. He called me. He said, "Man, I see Coach say you're gonna get the ball 30 times." He said, "I hope you get the ball 30 times."
Oh, Andre had to say
that. Mean I'm gonna have 30 tackles. I said, if I get the ball over 30 times, I said I'm gonna have a career day. And we was just talking noise.
Yeah, going back.
But at the same time, at halftime, I think I had 180-something yards. And going in, we was going in the tunnel, and J.O. came to me and he said, "Man," he said, you got 180 yards. He said, "Hell, we should just go for the record." I said, "Well, let's do it then." I said, "That's on you. That's on y'all."
Let the people know who J.O. is.
Jonathan Ogden,
Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I said, "That's on y'all. You got to get with your boys and look, let's go do it." And obviously it takes a lot to do that, right? Our quarterback did go down in the first game. Kyle Bowler.
No, Kyle Bowler.
Kyle Bowler went down in the first game. So we had Anthony Wright. So I was gonna get the ball. You know what I mean? So therefore, everything kind of went in my favor anyway. But at the same time, we just knew it, and then it was like, I always watch Jordan when he went into a zone, and I always just wondered how it felt to just go into that zone.
So you saying you touched the zone?
And I went in that zone, and it was like every time we touched the rock, every time it was like everything just went. The outside zone, we were stretching it, cutting it back, everything, just hitting it downhill. Everything was just working. The blockers everything was queuing up. Everything's working in our favor, and I just had to finish it. And I had the speed to basically, to hit the home run and get out there. So that's what we did, and it was just one of them things, and then we end up breaking it and then going over more, so. But it was kind of like that. It was I had about 3 or 4 big runs, and that's what added up. And you had the smaller ones, and then there it went,
So what was the celebration like after you broke that record? I know in the locker room you already got the game ball and all of that. I'm pretty sure. And then what did y'all do after that? Because I like the when we go behind the mask, we talk about all the
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
You didn't kick it, man?
Dude, let me tell you something. I was
oxygen tank.
Dude, yeah, had to do that. But I was so I got on the phone, called my dad because he wasn't there because he's too cheap to try to get a flight or even ask for a flight. So I called my dad and I said, "Man, we did it today, huh?" And he was like, "Hell, boy, you did, whatever." But it was one of them times, man, I was just like, man, we did it. But I was in awe, really, the whole time. So, honestly, man, I just went to a Fells Point, which is in Baltimore, and went to this bar. It was called The Horse You Came In On.
What?
Hey, look, it was called The Horse You Came In On. And honestly, dude, I sat there, man, and just had some drinks and just me and one of my boys, and that was it. Because it was late. It was late, stuff wasn't open. But I went and sat there, man, and just soaked it all in. But the best part about it was the next morning getting a call, and it was a number I didn't know, and I answered it, and he was like, Jamal? I was like,
David Baker?
I was like, who is this? It was Art Modell.
Okay.
The owner of the team. And he was like, he said, yesterday, that was very impressive. And he was like, I haven't seen a performance like that since Jim Brown. And I was like, oh.
That's major.
Art Modell, he was the owner of the Browns when Jim Brown was there, right?
Yeah, he owned the Browns, yeah. And he was a great owner and everything. And I still got his phone number in my phone. He's passed away. But it was a good family. But that was the best part about it, man. Just getting a call from the owner and saying what he said, and being compared to Jim Brown. That was awesome.
No, that's huge.
Yeah,
that's a huge accomplishment. And we talked about that. Yeah, 2003 was amazing. NFL Offensive Player of the Year, and then you fast forward to 2004. Towards the end of the year, you got into some trouble. Conspiracy charge with the attempt to organize drug sale. So going through all the litigation, you had to serve 4 months in prison. Take us through what that was like from being the previous year, you were on top of the world. And now, a year later, you sitting behind bars and just going through that emotional roller coaster.
I'm gonna take it back. Cause see, that's what everybody else saw, that part of it, right? Everybody else saw 2003. And honestly, you said 2004, but 2003, and I was went to the Pro Bowl, right? 2 weeks after the Pro Bowl is when I got that call. So I done ran for 2,000 yards, did all this stuff, got endorsements. I'm talking about that I'm just waiting to ink, and I'm like, and next gonna be a contract. And then all of a sudden, I get a call. So I'm gonna break it back. So first of all, before I even got drafted, all of this started happening. Before I got drafted in 2000, right? And honestly, it was just
coming out of college,
and honestly, I was at the rookie premiere, and I got a call, and it was my marketing guy, and he said, "Hey, I got this girl that knows Michael Vick, and he want to talk about leaving school early." So I was like, "Cool." I was like, just give her my number. So I talked to her, and she was talking about Vic and her and Vic, her mom was cool, his mom was cool and all this stuff, whatever. So I was like, cool, whatever. So when I got back to Atlanta, I hooked up with her, we talked and met or whatever. And next thing you know, she started talking about drugs, and I'm like, I don't know nothing about that, whatever. But she was a rambler and kind of made me kind of suspicious of her at the time. So what happened was, when I went to, me and my buddy, which is my co-defendant now, we went and met at a restaurant. We met at a restaurant because we was going out that night. And she called me and she said, "Hey, where you at?" And I was like, me and my boy, we up here at Houston's. I said, "Stop by, whatever, grab something to eat or drink or whatever." So she did that. Now, that meeting right there, which wasn't really a meeting, that was the nucleus of everything that happened.
In 2004.
Right? It was of everything that happened. And I had went and started training in Tennessee, and then I was in Florida training to get ready for the season or whatever. And then all of a sudden I get a call because obviously my buddy was still in talks with her. And she basically set him up, which ultimately set me up, after, later on after I hear all the tapes and stuff. And it was like, I ended up calling a lawyer. And then my lawyer was like, look, he said, hey, don't call me, I'll call you. Basically that was it. So honestly, dude, going through my rookie year all the way through, like I never knew if the feds was gonna be at my house. That's how I lived, and honestly, I kind of felt that, one day this gonna happen, it's gonna come up or something's gonna come out of, and it's gonna be, I'm gonna be done anyway. So you
always, even though you had this success, you always felt like this was looming over your head.
Oh yeah, it did. It was. I said it's gonna happen any day. And all of a sudden, I can remember when I got back from Pro Bowl. Fast forward in 2003, or going 2004, I got back from the Pro Bowl, and I'm sitting I just got a condo in Florida, right? And went out, had a good time, and I had a call that was from my lawyer's secretary, and I checked the message and said, Penny, this Jamal, call me. It's urgent. I said, oh boy. I said, here it go. So I called Ed Garland, and he said, Jamal, he said, you're about to get indicted on the 4 o'clock news. And I was just like, dang. And I kind of knew what it was, whatever. But, and it got, it happened. And then I flew back in here and turned myself in and did all of that or whatever, and kind of found out, what it was, because I didn't even know what it was. What am I actually, and then that's when everything came out as far as what had happened on the other end, and that's where you got a conspiracy. It was between 3 people, So basically everything started from that Houston's, where she basically set that up, the girl set that up, and feds were there or whatever, and they paint the picture as I'm introducing them. And, later on, come to find out, I was talking to a fed, and he said, man, I was in the office today that Mike Brown, who is the actual prosecutor who prosecuted me, he came into the office, and he was new from Miami, and pulled all the files, told him to pull all files on everything that's been going on. And he saw my file, and he said, get me everything on that. And then he basically just brought it up and brought it out. And that's why, if you noticed, when did I find out about any court dates? It was on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. Like, it was all about
prohibiting you.
It was all about publicity for him more than anything else, right? And I went through the process, and then going through that next season, I had to fly back in town after games, go meet with my lawyer, and go through all this process of what we're going to do, how we're going to approach this, and I really had nothing to hide. I had nothing to hide, first of all, and it was just really one of them things where what I went to jail for was a tape that there was no sound on at all, because the girl said that she put the recorder in wrong. And that actual tape really is what she said. This is what he said. That's what I ended up getting prosecuted for. And but I owned up, because with me it was more of, hey, look, I can go serve 4 months in prison, and then and Art Modell had my back, Paul Tagliabue had my back, Ozzie Newsome had my back, Brian Billick had my back, and they was like, look, we know who you are, we know your character, we know you didn't have nothing to do with this. You good. Your job is good. You don't have to worry about anything like that. You're going to get suspended for 4 or 5 games or whatever, but you're good. And I said, look, I got a family to take care of, and that's what was more important. So I took it. I just took it, really, instead of fighting it. And the crazy part about it is going to court And the first thing that the judge said was that because of the United States government, their witness, which was this girl that set me up, this witness wasn't a credible witness. So it probably would have got thrown out, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, but I just bit the bullet and just owned up, and I said, hey, look, all right, as long as I'm gonna go away for 4 months while off season, I'm gonna be able to come back by the time the season started anyway. So I'll take it, and that's just what I did. And then I promise you, the last day of my probation, Mike Brown ended up becoming a defense attorney. The last day.
Wow.
So it was mainly, man, I just saw it as, look, this is a learning lesson.
Yeah.
And, you got to watch who you associate yourself with because it's really not about what you did. It's about who you're with and who you're around, Yeah. And I learned from that. And I think that was the biggest thing I took away from it. And I think that God just really sat me down, for them 4 to 6 months, sat me down. I got a chance to regroup because I was living in the fast lane and having a great time. And I think it was more about, hey, look, this can all be taken away from you just like that. So I got out and then got back on track, man, and it finished off a great career.
Man, that's a heavy story, man. We talking a little bit before we got behind the mask, man. And now that you're talking about that story, I recall it now. But for the little ones that's out there that will tune in, that's a story about perseverance, like overcoming obstacles. Mm-hmm. So once you met that adversity, how did you continue to move forward and still have another successful 6 to 7 years in the league?
It was honestly, dude, it was like, hey, look, man, like I had to learn from it. Like I said first, I had to learn from it. And it was really understanding why. Like, why am I in this position? And I saw it as, hey, look, I am from the inner city. I grew up in a low income neighborhood, low income area. My friends were all drug dealers, and I hung out in projects, and these were my friends, But at the same time, I always felt that, Jamal Anderson, a lot of these guys play for the Falcons, I didn't see a Jamal Anderson rolling through Bankhead in a Mercedes. You know what I mean? I saw the Kingpin rolling through in a Mercedes, and I wanted that. You know what I mean? So my whole thing was, if I had an opportunity, was that I wanted to ride through the hood in a nice car, and I wanted a kid to say, I want to be that. Yeah. And he's a football player, and he's from right here where I am.
And did it the right
but,
way. Yeah.
It was like, honestly, I've seen kids, they want to grow up, they aspire to be a drug dealer because that's what they saw. That's who had all the money. That's who took care of the hood or whatever. So it was mainly like, hey, look, I want to be that person that gives back this way in what you see. And when I did that, it turned out to be, no, you must be supplying drugs or you must be. So therefore the feds really came after me. It wasn't something I did. The feds came after me. That's why now I see all this police brutality and all this stuff. Man, police brutality, it's been happening. But it's been happening in other ways where it's more of somebody like myself who basically, it ain't somebody beating me down, but it's a prosecutor that can build a story and sit in front of your face like they did me and say, we know you had nothing to do with this, but we got to save face of the government. And I got to, and me saying, and this girl saying something about drugs, and me on the other phone saying, okay, and getting off the phone with her. He's taking that and spinning it to say, you're saying, okay, yes to everything that she's saying. And I got to sit there and say, okay, all right, that's what that means, and just take that. But, just to these kids out here now, it's like, just watch who you're around and just know that just because you don't have something to do with anything or whatever, it's really who you're around. So make sure you think before you act, and make sure that you just putting yourself in the best situations and making good decisions, because your decisions, have consequences. So just know whether it's a good one or a bad consequence, just know that there is a consequence, and you got to think about that beforehand. So am I saying that I am just totally innocent and this, that, and the other? No. I shouldn't have been around drug dealers when I got a $35 million contract. You know what I mean? And honestly, the same person that was the guy that helped take care of me, and I used to go sit down with a whole trap full of drug dealers, and they used to feed me at Golden Corral, and I was just a football player. You know what I mean? Like that's how I used to eat, or whatever, with these guys and break bread. But I didn't sell drugs or whatever, but I'm still associating myself with that, and I'm still around that lifestyle. So you got to think, and you can't just go putting yourself in those positions. And you know what? Own up to it. You know what I mean? Because you got some part to do in it. You played your role in it, and I feel like I did play my role in it, and I owned up to it, and I learned from it.
All right, J. Lou, man, we done talked about perseverance, your competitiveness, your greatness. I got something for you, man, that you may not remember. Jamal Lewis, Private Reserve, number 31, Celebrity Pool Tournament, March 19th, 2004. Yeah. A cigar you gave out to all your guests. I don't smoke cigars, but I kept this in my nightstand because this is right after your 2,000-yard rushing season. And I was like, this man had a pool tournament. I was invited. We got both drafted in 2000. I said, I'm going to keep this. And I had it in my nightstand. We got you on the show on the Behind the Mask podcast, and I still have this, bro.
That's crazy.
This is crazy. Look, Spikes is a cigar crazy smoker.
Yeah, but so this thing good and stale.
It's still good, though. I know what do you call it?
Good.
No humidifier,
yeah, whatever.
Humidor. There you go.
God.
I don't smoke cigars. I don't know.
He's an aficionado.
You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy though.
But one, do you still shoot pool? And then also, I know you got the little ones now. So what do you teach them? Football, pool? What you got going, man?
Man, I do not shoot pool anymore. No? It's hard to find a pool table, in a spot. Yeah. Especially in a spot. So, but that event was when I was doing my charity thing or whatever. And honestly, man, I'm happy you even came to that because that was right after I got into trouble. Yeah. So a lot of people fell off of me at that time or whatever because of that. But no, I don't. But now my kids, man, I got my oldest kid, my oldest son, he's into music and acting and stuff like that. So he's pursuing something other than what Dad did, which, I can't. I thought about it because I'm like, it's a waste of good DNA. You know what I mean? Like, for real. It's just a waste of good DNA. but you know what? But I'm going to tell you this. But I say that because my dad did the same thing to me. Yeah. My dad was in real estate, and he thought that I was going to just go into real estate. This is what I was going to do. But I totally just went and did something totally opposite or whatever. But he's pursuing his passion and what he want to do, and I like that. And he's passionate about it. As long as he's work at it and put the work ethic into it, I don't care. Do what you got to do. But that's what he's doing. So he's shooting movies right now, and he's actually in it and doing it. So
shout out to
that's cool. Yeah, so that's cool. And then my 9-year-old, he's playing football, and he does sports. And I was coaching. I didn't coach this year. Because I just want to let him go play.
You don't be that dad out there who be trying to be over controlling and bearing, do you?
When I coached, I did, and that's why I let him just go and just do his thing this year. But when I am on the sideline, I am coaching from the sideline. I am a sideline coach, but he's doing his thing and having fun. He's looking forward to the concession stand after practice. So
whatever it takes to motivate him.
So
right?
He's all good. He's doing his thing, and I don't push him to really play or whatever, but he likes it. He likes sports. So I think that he'll be that one that really plays a sport and that really goes far in it as far as he can go. But other than that, man, I just stay busy. I got a trade show exhibit company. So I basically go in and design trade show exhibits and fabricate and build trade show exhibits. So any company going into a trade show, I basically build the booth. So if you ever been to a trade show, I build the booth, small, big, whatever it might be. But we custom. I do more custom builds for companies like T-Mobile, Google, Fabuwood was a big cabinet company. But we got probably over 100 different clients that we just go in and we build for. But that's what I do now, and just travel and still do stuff with the Ravens and do some appearances and stuff like that. But other than that, that's pretty much it, man. Just try to stay busy.
It is.
You went on record, and after you were done playing, saying that you suffered from some of the concussions that were sustained throughout your career. You was a bruising type back. I had to face you 2 times a year, and I know the style and the effort that you brought when you played the game. I hear you talk about your sons, and now that we know everything about what comes from playing football, the CTE, knowing the possibility that, hey, you and I played for a long period of time, and the way that we played the game, it's a good chance that we all may have it, once we get ready to depart. With you having that information, I want to ask you this. Do you think, not even do you think, you mentioned one of your sons, he plays football. How did you have that conversation with him after the fact of knowing everything? What were your emotions about it? Did you want to pull him? Did you continue to let him play? What was your thought process through that, just knowing the damage that comes along with the game?
Well, my oldest did play earlier on, and then after all that happened, I was kind of, unsure. I was really unsure, but I wanted to make it his decision to play, because if he wanted to play, he could play. I wasn't just gonna hold him out just because of that. But later on, the reason why I let my 9-year-old play, and he's been playing since he was 7, was because the NFL, the game within itself made a change. So what's the best time to let your kid play football is now, because it's safer pretty much than it's ever been, right?
Right.
And plus, football has taught me so much. And, I just think that it was, to me, growing up how I did grow up, it was a relief. It was a way for me to go out and let out all of the stresses and everything else, because I can go out there and hit somebody. I can go run. I got, people cheering for you, this, that, and the other. So it was a rush for me, and it was a rush and a relief at the same time. So I just, think from a safety standpoint, I think it's safer than it's ever been. And I try to teach them, how to play the game safe, play it fast, and just, what to expect. But at the same time, man, there's nothing, and people that haven't played the game or haven't been into entertainment or anything like that, you know the rush that you get from going out in front of 75,000 people and them screaming your name and you making a big play and the focus is on you, So I wouldn't mind them actually being able to experience that one day, So that's it.
Do you think you would let your kids do all the stuff off the field as well? You know what I mean? Like all the experiences that you had, how would you say, you know what, this was my life, this is what I did, but no, you don't do this, or yes, you do that?
Well, yeah, I think that, even if you can go out and be successful at anything, just do these things different. Hey, you can use, just like having a big brother, you took what your brother did and you kind of said, okay, he did this wrong, and then you go back and you do things different, So I just say, you can go and look it up, and it's an open book on my life and what I've been through. But at the same time, take care of yourself, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it because it's short, but at the same time, make it quality, make it quality versus, just wasting time, or whatever. Because you can have a lot of money, but at the same time, what I figured out from the NFL is money is not what I left it with. I left it with relationships.
Right.
I left it with relationships. I left it with, knowledge in dealing with adversity, and how you can be down by 21 points and you can come back and win that game, it's a lesson in that, So that's kind of what I left it with, and that's kind of how I would approach them is, don't just look at the moment and what you in, it's what you can take from it is what's most important.
Would you tell them to look out for their friends as well? Because I'm gonna tell you a story about one of my friends, guy named Jamal Lewis. Used to work out with him.
Give me some dirt.
You know what I'm saying? Got the dirt.
Give me some dirt.
So off season, we training, we working out. Getting ready for the season coming up. We do kickboxing. Guy named Steve Reyes. I'm doing kung fu kicks and all of that. We ninjas, 300-pound ninja. So after my workouts, I like to lay on the mat because I'm tired for 30, 45 minutes. They're like, come on, we're going to go eat. Nah, I'm laying
down, right?
So because I lay down and listen to my body, if I don't do that, think my equilibrium is off.
Your equilibrium is off.
All off. Leaving kickboxing in Buckhead, I hop in the car just to get ahead and, go where I'm going, go back to the crib. I don't see a car turning. I'm in the wrong lane. I look up and say, damn, I'm in the wrong lane. I try to turn. Boom. I have an accident. Right? So I'm sitting on the side of the road. I'm telling the lady, like, look, I'm so sorry. It's my fault. Totally my fault. I play in the league. I don't want no issues. I'll pay for whatever, your damages are. But as I'm standing on the side of the road, one of my friends, Jamal Lewis, comes out of training with us and is driving by. So he sees me on the side of the road, fender bender. I'm like, hey, man, he's like, "Tu, you good?" I said, yeah, I think so. All right. So, why you left me, man?
Hey, look, I think you was just a little startled a little bit. But I asked him, was he good? I asked you, was you good? And you said you was good. So I'm gonna let you handle your business right there. But he was dizzy. Because he didn't tell you, I saw him walking out of the gym, and he's like, ooh, whatever. He sat in his car, and then he done took off, but he was dizzy trying to make making that turn, but he's a little lightheaded. But you said you was good, man.
Hey, man, you can't be leaving your boy on the side of the road, man.
Hey, look. It won't happen again. I can tell you that.
No, it won't. Huh? Hey, before I let you go, man, we always got to touch on a common subject. I won't even say it's common, but it's common this time of the year with the trade deadline in the NFL. You see a lot of guys are now much more expendable. I remember when we were playing, teams really didn't make a trade throughout the year. They just wouldn't do it. They were not willing to give up future draft picks. Jamal Adams, cornerback for the New York Jets, LSU product. He came out and said he was upset because he felt like the Jets were trying to shop him. He said the reason why he was upset because you should never tell a guy that you are the cornerstone of a team, that you won't be moved, and then you negotiate terms with other teams 3 days later. He said, but now he's at peace with it. It's all love. He was actually upset because he also went to the media and said, I don't see New England Patriots shopping around Tom Brady. They wouldn't shop. The Rams wouldn't shop around Aaron Donald, and he felt as if he was in that same company. I do believe he is a very good football player. One day he will become a great football player. We know the business side. It's one thing to actually be in it, but it's another thing to be out of it and see the business side. What's your thoughts on his comments? And we all know, and just understanding like it's a business, but he's feeling a certain type of way because he was pretty much their lottery pick a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. I think that, is sometimes you get that eye opener and that that reality check. And I think that's what he got is that reality check right then. And you can't emotionally tie yourself to an organization because you love the game of football. And I had to learn that too. You can't emotionally tie yourself there, right? And you definitely can't compare yourself to somebody else's product. You know, you can't do that. Don't compare yourself to somebody else's product. But at the same time, you know, I think that all these guys should look at that and take note that, hey, look, you know, don't emotionally tie yourself to this team because this team is not emotionally tied to you. Mm-hmm. So, you know, do your job, do it great, and be who you are, and just know that, hey, look, there's going to come a time where it's going to be more money out there on the table, and guess what? You're going to leave that team to go where that money is. You're not going to take less because you're emotionally tied to this team or whatever. So, you know, it is a business. And I think that this is a reality check for him. And, you know, he just needed to, you know, learn from that. It seems like he did. I'm happy he made that last statement because it seems like he got it. You know, he understands it now, you know. And I think that a lot of these young guys need to understand that too, that these teams don't care nothing about you.
Right.
They care about what you can do for them today, you know, today. But, you know, the future is not promised to you with these organizations.
Hey, that's where it's at. I think we can drop the mic on that one.
There it is. There it is.
Yep.
Much appreciated, bro. Anytime you want to come through Behind the Mask podcast, we love to have you, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all reaching out.
Hey,
Yeah,
man.
man.
Anytime, man.
Anytime, bro.
Yeah.
Family.
My man.
Listen,
Right on.
Yep.
I'm hurting for my birthday last night.
Oh, it's a bro, man. Happy belated
If you see me
birthday,
on the
bro.
side of the road, just don't leave me. Just don't leave me.
I
man.
won't. I won't.
100.
Yep.
Let's go behind the mask.